Hello everyone. Welcome back to Improved Version, a channel dedicated to sharing knowledge for holistic personal development through the lens of great books. It is wonderful to see everyone again in the second episode of our Family Awakening series. We believe that this series is not only meant for parents, but it is also highly suitable for anyone who wants to understand and heal their family relationships. By doing so, you can learn to embrace your inner child and create a solid foundation to finally break free from cycles of hurt. This process is essential for building a happy, loving family for the next generation to come. In the previous episode, we explored the transformative idea that children come into your life to help you see yourself clearly. They are mirrors that help you grow and become more aware. Therefore, the root of fatigue and conflict in families often does not stem from the child, but rather from the misconceptions and invisible fears that silently guide the actions of the parents themselves. These internal struggles cause parents to deviate from their true selves, unintentionally creating conflict and unhappiness. We discuss recognizing 7 major misconceptions, such as the idea that parenting is solely for the child's sake, or the belief that simply loving your child makes you a good parent. We also looked at 9 deep-seated fears, including the fear of not being loved, the fear of unhappiness, and the fear of conflict. Perhaps many of you have bravely confronted the darkness within yourselves and realized that the exhaustion you feel isn't because raising children is inherently difficult or because they are misbehaving, but because you haven't yet confronted yourself enough. In the second episode, we will embark on a journey of solution and enlightenment. Having clearly identified the misconceptions and fears, the biggest question now is, how do we overcome them? How can we stop being controlled by those invisible fears? How can we bring about change from within, shifting from our old mindset to conscious action? Our goal is to build a loving family where both parents and children can be their authentic selves, connect deeply, and grow together. If you haven't listened to episode 1 yet, you can always go back and watch it, or you can start right now with this episode. The content here is complete in itself and can help you grasp a clear direction. From there, you can return to understand the root of the problem. It doesn't matter where you start. The important thing is that you truly connect with yourself throughout this journey. Now, please listen closely. This is the right time for you to move from fear to awareness. Behind every one of our reactions to our children, there are always undercurrents of fear at work. However, it is precisely by confronting those fears that we have the opportunity to shed the old ways of thinking and the immature ways of interacting that we have unconsciously carried with us for years. These reactions are not limited to how you raise your children. They permeate almost every aspect of your life. They affect how you treat money, how you cope with stress and pressure, how you treat your body, and your perspective on hard work, discipline, success, or failure. At first glance, we might think these are personal choices, but in reality, most of our behavior is being guided by chips that have been programmed since a very young age. The emotional patterns of our family emotional patterns are familiar ways of feeling, reacting, and behaving emotionally that are formed within a family and passed down from generation to generation. This pattern didn't start with you. It may have existed even before you were born. It is often the result of trauma, deprivation, and fear inherited from previous generations. That's why it's so difficult to recognize these emotional patterns at work inside you. They are so familiar that you think they are part of your own personality, and they are even considered normal within your family. It is usually only when you become a parent, face a crisis, or enter a deep, intimate relationship that these patterns become clear, provided you're willing to see them. For example, if you were raised with strict discipline or high expectations, you might immediately become angry when your child does something wrong. That's because the instinct for control that helped you survive in your old environment is now resurfacing. Or perhaps you grew up in a family where emotions were seen as a weakness. When your child cries or throws a tantrum, you get frustrated and quickly tell them to stop. It's not because the child is wrong, but because your own old resentment is being activated. If you grew up always needing to be well-behaved and pleasing to others, you may feel uncomfortable when your child dares to say no. They are touching upon a fear of rejection that you've never even named. Recognizing these patterns helps you avoid rushing to scold your child or blaming your parents. You simply understand that this is an old cycle continuing to operate. To remove these implanted emotional chips, you must first write down what is making you afraid whenever an emotion rises. Once you have a list of your fears, you can use a simple but powerful method called YES, but in this context, YES stands for acknowledgement and acceptance. You accept that fear is affecting your thoughts and behavior without denying it or blaming yourself. The BUT stands for awareness and conscious choice. You say to yourself, yes, I feel this fear, but right now, I choose not to let it take the steering wheel. I choose a new course of action. This simple statement carries a sense of freedom and sovereignty. You're no longer letting an invisible chip control your actions. For example, you might say, yes, I'm afraid my child will fail, but I choose to believe in their abilities and give them the right to make mistakes. Or, yes, I was afraid of being judged as an inadequate parent, but I choose to listen to my child's true needs instead of conforming to other people's opinions. You might even say, yes, I'm afraid of losing control when my child doesn't listen, but I choose to stop, breathe, and respond with presence instead of anger. You can apply this to others as well, choosing respectful dialogue over avoidance or outbursts. Each yes, but is a small moment of awareness that, when repeated, creates a great power to break down old emotional patterns. Ultimately, the journey from fear to awareness requires separating love from fear. As mentioned in the book Dialogue with God, all human thoughts and actions are based on two fundamental emotions, fear and love. All other emotions are merely variations of these two states. We often fluctuate like a pendulum between the two. In a single moment, we can love someone while also fearing they will deviate from our expectations. When this happens, our controlling actions are often disguised by the words because of love. The book shares a case of a mother and her 11-year-old son who frequently argued. One day, she found him playing on his iPad instead of studying. In her anger, she forbade him from attending his best friend's birthday party. During the ensuing struggle, she was injured. Through therapy, she realized her son's reaction was a self-defense mechanism against her harsh, controlling energy. When she wrote down her fears, failure, weakness, uselessness, and contrasted them with her love wanting the best for him, recognizing his kindness, her heart softened. She realized that an action stemming from fear creates defense and conflict, but an action stemming from love creates openness and trust. Love sees, allows, and trusts the natural process of others. The author also shares a beautiful poem to help you recognize your child as a gift from heaven, rather than a source of difficulty. This poem invites you to listen with your heart rather than the intellect of a teacher. May you be fortunate to have a child like this. It resists you, so you learn to let go of control. It disobeys, so you learn to listen more deeply. It procrastinates so you learn to slow down and respect the natural rhythm of life. It forgets so you learn not to cling to form. It is overly sensitive so you learn to be steadfast. It is easily distracted so you learn to be present. It dares to resist so you learn to overcome old ways of thinking. It knows fear so you learn to trust in life. May you be fortunate to have a child like this. To build a mindful family, you need 9 core skills that serve as the foundation of enlightened thinking. These are not tricks to manage children, but ways to cultivate your inner strength. The first skill is moving from expectation to focus. Behind most parental fear is the anxiety of unmet expectations. Traditional parenting assumes parents are superior and have the right to impose their will. However, expectations are always about the future and often contradict the present. This creates a gap where children feel immense pressure to chase an image, eventually abandoning their true selves. This is a serious trauma. By shifting to focus, you become fully present in the child's current reality. When the author's daughter competed in a horse riding competition, the author didn't focus on the prize. Whether she won or lost, the goal was the experience of facing the unknown. This liberation from the pressure of results allows a child to have a complete, beautiful experience. The second skill is moving from thoughtless reactions to genuine companionship. When your child shares something, do you react with judgment or sincerity? Sincerity means accepting your child's reality as it is without resistance. If you constantly tell them you should do this, they will eventually stop talking to you. By removing the trigger of emotional outbursts, you can guide them firmly but with love, focusing on the cause and effect of their actions rather than criticizing their nature. The third skill is moving from chaos to peace. True calmness is vital. If you're constantly excited by external achievements, your child will believe success is only found outside themselves. Stable parents don't need to shout to be heard. Use the 5-minute silence method to maintain a steady mind during a crisis. The fourth skill is moving from the battlefield to negotiation. Aggression in children is often a self-defense mechanism. By changing from a win-lose mindset to a win-win mindset, you encourage cooperation. Instead of a battle over the TV remote, ask, "You want this? I want that. How can we create a plan C that makes us both happy?" This takes time, but it builds mutual respect. This also applies to sibling rivalry. Labeling one child as good and the other as bad creates competition. Parents must remain unbiased and not allow one child to play the victim. Treating them equally and teaching them new skills for conflict resolution will naturally eliminate bad behavior. The fifth skill is moving from emotion to feeling. Venting anger is not the same as expressing feelings. When parents lose control, children learn to fear them rather than respect them. The solution is to take the straight path. Acknowledge "I am tired" or "I am depressed" purely. When feelings are expressed, emotions lose their power to explode. The sixth skill is moving from criticism to empathy. True empathy doesn't come with expectations. It is an exchange of energy in the present moment without demanding a specific outcome. The seventh skill is moving from discipline to enlightening rules. An enlightened family is not a chaotic one. It has rules that serve the higher self. These rules should focus on self-respect, respect for the living environment, respect for the inner life, and respect for the community. The eighth skill is moving from restrictive intervention to independence. Overprotecting a child creates anxiety and laziness. Parents must stop binding their own emotions to their child's emotions. You must separate your sadness from theirs to avoid excessive interference. Finally, the ninth skill is moving from having a role to not having a role. The role of parent is often where the ego hides. Parents who control their children are often just defending their own ego. To escape this, learn from the four elements: earth, water, fire, and air. Earth supports without judgment. Air is everywhere but doesn't invade. Fire transforms through warmth rather than burning. Water has no fixed shape and adapts to the terrain. When you set aside the role, true love flourishes. I have dedicated to long videos to this topic because I believe the transformative journey of how we raise the next generation is the most fundamental mission of a human life. It is like preparing the soul of an entire family. Parents carry heavy armor responsibility, expectations, and past scars. It takes extraordinary courage to look back at yourself, but that moment of awareness can close the door on generations of suffering. I hope these shared thoughts can touch your heart and bring a smile to your face. To all the courageous individuals bearing the great calling of parenthood, you're not alone. Thank you for listening to this deep dive into the awakening of the family soul. If you found this video helpful and believe in the mission of healing family relationships, please take a moment to support us. Share this video with a friend or a fellow parent who might be struggling. You never know how much a little bit of enlightenment can change someone's day. Please give this video a like to help it reach more people. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. By joining the Improved Version community, you are committing to your own growth and helping us create more content that heals and empowers. We release new videos every week, each designed to help you become the best version of yourself. Thank you again for your incredible support, and I will see you in our next video. Stay mindful and stay loving.